Uh-oh.
Yes, boy!
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Hey, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Buddy, I think we're on the air. And welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Asante, back here once again to review another episode of AEW Dynamite.
Were you Cassidy flexing? Was that what you were worried about?
No, the intro glitched a little bit for me, so this the volume was ahead of the picture, and I wasn't sure when we actually started.
We were all good, and now I called myself out. You guys can see it on Instagram. My lack of shoulder muscle right now, but I'm out of the fucking sling.
Hey, look at that! Let's go. A lot more rehab ahead of James.
Oh, so much.
But let's get things underway. We'll start at the top of the show to help introduce the rest of it. And speaking of rehab, we saw Kenny Omega, the newly crowned AEW International Champion, the first Grand Slam champion in AEW history, make his way down to the ring to help introduce the show. Kenny starts off by saying how much he feels like he's in a dream state, that he is able to go just from being able to say that he was happy that he was returning to the ring and he was going to be able to give it a shot after he was cleared, all the way to not only winning a championship, but winning a singles championship at that. Omega then goes on to thank a lot of people, including the fans, his doctors, and an unlikely friend in Will Ospreay. But he also goes on to thank Takeshita, saying that Takeshita pushed him further than he thought he could go. And he also thanked him for making the title truly an international championship, which is why Kenny is very much in the support of the International Championship Eliminator that started tonight, as he wants the person to hold the championship to truly be able to call themselves the best in the world. I think some other guy in a different company currently holds that title. But
yeah, screw that guy. Nobody cares about him anyway. He wasn't even the guy when Bryan Danielson was around.
True. And then as Kenny finishes up and heads back up the ramp, the Ops make their entrance for their match, which Shibata leading the stare down of Kenny as he is in the Eliminator tournament, and he will be fighting on Saturday. I forget against Tomb, but it's okay.
Ricochet.
Yes, he's fighting Ricochet. Thank you. Who we'll get to a bit later. But James, this is, nice little celebration for Kenny. He was very gracious. He signed a bunch of stuff for people.
The crowd was loving him, man. Like, he couldn't get around the ring without stopping for everybody who wanted him. Like, somebody brought him roses.
Yeah, they brought him roses and like a ball cap filled with stuff. And he was like, look, I got to cut this promo. I'll come out for it later or I'll get you back. Like, whatever it was, he was like, I can't take it right now. I'm sorry. It was a very warm reception for him. And it wasn't anything special promo-wise, but I think it did a good job of setting up this tournament, which looks pretty exciting on paper.
I'm always so conflicted because I do love a good tournament, but I'd be lying if I said that AEW hasn't on occasion, and WWE too, but AEW has on occasion oversaturated the tournament market between the Owen, between the Continental Classic, between whenever there's a vacancy for a title or an interim title, there's usually a tournament. So
there was one just to get a spot in that women's match at the start.
Yeah. But that said, the names in this tournament are all very high caliber and are all people that I would love to see Kenny wrestle. So I don't have a complaint here, especially with our headline. So we'll get to that in a second. But I love the fact that Kenny started the show. I love the fact that Kenny, even MVP joked about this before, but it's true. I'm so happy that Kenny has that aura back. People are lining up to face the best in the world. People are fighting each other for an opportunity at the best in the world. And it's awesome. So I'm glad the crowd's reacting to him. I'm glad it feels natural. Like, it feels right to see gold around his waist. And he even talked about it. It's singles gold. He didn't think he'd be here. Like in 2025, before 2025, he was just happy to say that he'd be cleared again. but now he is our international champion, and that is awesome. So really cool for Kenny. Really excited about this particular tournament, and there are a few names that I wouldn't mind seeing be the guy to take Kenny on.
Yeah, and I know AEW tends to do quite a few tournaments, but I do like the fact that they do at least attempt to mix up the style of tournaments. This one's much shorter than normal because it's only 2 rounds, despite there being 8 people in it, because the match to go on and face Kenny at Dynasty is a 4-way match.
That's fun. I think that's a on it. I did that before. WWE's done it before. Other places have done that before. I think maybe even AEW's done that before. But it's just a nice little twist on the tournament formula.
Yeah, no, it's always good. And that's why I don't mind AEW having as many tournaments as they do, because they are able to keep things fresh with them for the most part. We check the comments real quick and say hello to Navarro. What's up, dude?
Navarro?
Hey, boys. I'll be real. I watched Dynamite tonight for the first time in a while. Love the start of Dynamite because Kenny is the GOAT, but I am tired of the tournaments. I think that's, a fair assessment. They're not for everybody.
But arguably, we could have gotten here with just a matchup, like just a fatal 4-way of who the final 4 participants were going to be. Because let me say, and Rev, you kind of said this to me beforehand, the main event really didn't do it for me.
Same.
And we'll get into that. Sorry for the spoiler. We're going to get there. Orange won. I didn't need to see Hechicero. I like Hechicero. I do. And I think he's a fun heel luchador, which isn't something you see all that often, especially with his style, which is very submission heavy and can be somewhat comedic as well. I didn't need it. I would have been fine if they just said Orange Cassidy was in a fatal 4-way to determine the international champion, number 1 contender. So it is what it is. But again, we're getting some nice matches. And as you pointed out, this is all going to be very condensed because it's just 2 rounds of a tournament.
Yeah, and literally half of those, the first round was tonight. The other half is Saturday. I'm guessing the 4-way is either tomorrow or next week, or tomorrow, next week or the week after, and then it's done. So it's not like it's a crazy long tournament, but the good thing about AEW and their tournaments is they do stack them, or they tend to stack them. So, you tend to get really good matchups out of it. Occasionally you get some storylines building out of it, and they do a good job with them, even if you are getting a little bit tired of them.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to skip ahead then and stick with the international tournament and head to the first match of that, which saw the Beast Mortos face off against a wild card entrant. And for those of you who can't tell from the title of this video, that wild card entrant was one Speedball Mike Bailey, making his AEW debut. He is now All Elite. So, James, anything you want to say about Speedball before we get into the match?
So Speedball is a world-renowned talent. He is from Canada. He spent a lot of time in TNA over the last couple of years. I truly, in my heart, believe the only reason he left TNA is because Scott D'Amore left. He unfortunately lost a good chunk of his career because he got there was issues with his visa when he was here, and then he got into some trouble, and then he was forced to stay in Canada for several years. So he's finally back. He's been back for the last couple of years in TNA, and he has hit the ground running. He wrestles in every indie possible. If you have an indie in your town, I guarantee you Speedball will be there. We've seen him a few times at House of Glory in person. And just being the TNA guy, I know how good he is. Arguably, from an athleticism point of view, one of the best out there. He had one of the match of the year candidates last year against Will Ospreay in TNA before Will officially signed with AEW. So this is a guy who can go with the best, and many are looking forward to it. No matter what happens in this tournament, whether Speedball makes it all the way or not, Kenny Omega versus Speedball Mike Bailey has been a bucket list match for me since Kenny was in TNA for the TNA and was the TNA World Champion. That match was teased. That match was thought about, but it never happened. So bring it on. That's going to slap.
Yeah, I got to say, I don't remember if I saw him at House of Glory, but I've seen bits and pieces of him in TNA, like some of the highlights and stuff. You're right. He is a very athletic dude. That was one of the first things I noticed. Well, that and that he fights barefoot.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Barefoot with the kick pads is a very unique look.
Yeah, right? And they talk about it in the matchup, and we'll get into all the matchup and everything. But yeah, he is a unique guy. He is a white meat babyface.
Oh, yeah.
he is he's white bread. And it works for him. But yeah, he's an awesome talent. And this match, which I thought was an excellent debut match, didn't even scratch the surface.
Which is crazy because I thought putting him up against a guy or a beast like Mortos was perfect because Mortos is an absolute powerhouse, but he can also go. Like, he's a quick dude. So putting them up against each other was just a perfect styles make fights type of match. And it just ended up being really awesome. I'll jump to the end where Speedball kicked out of a pop-up Samoan drop, and then he kicked out of a press slam from the top rope, which is impressive. Mortos then hit a backbreaker and a discus clothesline, but when Mortos got Bailey up on his shoulders, Bailey reversed it into a pinfall. Mortos shifted the weight, and then both men were forced to kick out. Bailey then quickly hit a lefty PK and followed that up with a standing moonsault knee drop, which Excalibur was saying was basically his finisher that he normally does off the second rope, but he just did it on the fucking mat, which is crazy.
Yep.
And then he hit a crescent kick and then ended up putting Mortos down and giving Speedball the win. So, Jade, I was very impressed with this, and we'll probably talk about it more when we talk about Orange Cassidy versus Hechicero in a second. I thought this should have main evented.
Absolutely.
I thought the match was much better, and I think the pop of Speedball debuting at the main event slot would have been a better position to put this match in. Just because the matches tonight weren't amazing. I thought this was match of the night for me personally.
I'd agree. I thought this was.
I think in the middle was weird.
I understand why they did it. Speedball has never appeared on AEW television before. You have no idea how people are going to react to somebody that has never shown up before or even been teased before. It's not like they were hyping up the debut of Speedball. What's up?
Excalibur said there was a video package.
All right, that is true. A few weeks ago, they said he's officially coming to AEW, but they didn't do much to hype him up. And I say that as somebody who's been anticipating Speedball and somebody who, we knew he had signed. We follow the reports, we know the news that he got signed, but it's not something that was sending shockwaves. I think there are people who are waiting more for Josh Alexander right now to show up in AEW than anything.
There's a brief moment I thought that this was going to be him, and then I was like, he just signed. It's probably going to take a little while longer.
So with Speedball, I get not throwing him in the main event and potentially having crickets. Now, we know off hindsight, that's unfortunately kind of where the main event ended anyway. And if we had seen what it was going to be, if we had known the reaction Speedball was going to get and that match was going to get, I think they would have done things differently where Orange would have confronted Speedball at the end, as vice versa. But it is what it is. 2020, hindsight is 2020. It didn't say the show is what it was. Even if that was the main event, we would have gone home happier. But the show was still kind of mid, no matter how you paint it. Unfortunately,
yeah, and I understand they're coming off Revolution. I think a lot of people got not. They didn't get hurt, but there's hurt and there's injured. So I think.
I heard a lot of people are banged up right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Will was struggling today.
Will was hobbling around. Mercedes can barely talk. Kenny looked the only one who wasn't any worse for wear, which is insane. Toni was
he's had enough injury time. Yeah. He's good. He's good.
Toni Storm was being held together by duct tape and glue.
Yep. Literally stitched together.
Yeah, some parts probably quite literally with the glue. So a lot of your top talents weren't going to be wrestling tonight or maybe even there. So I can understand why this wasn't a episode that came out of the gate strong following your pay-per-view. But it was still pretty good. And I agree with you. I understand that going with known commodity Orange Cassidy in the main event is the safer move.
Yeah. It backfired, unfortunately.
Yeah, hindsight being 2020, I do wish this was the main event because I knew everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be Speedball." You were saying it was going to be Speedball. The internet was saying it was going to be Speedball, and I was like, "He's facing Mortos. This is going to be good."
Yep.
So I knew match wise it could have main evented, which is why I think it should have. Because even though I was looking forward to Orange Cassidy Hechicero,
yeah,
because Orange has had good matches against submission guys before, but it unfortunately just fell kind of flat, especially compared to this.
Yeah. It should also be noted, we are very big Beast Mortos guys.
Yeah.
So for me to be actively rooting against Beast Mortos, it's because this is somebody I am very invested in, and I am very invested in Speedball Mike Bailey. This is the guy. Truth be told, I know I've been very down on Danny Garcia and all that. If you immediately hot-shotted the TNT title onto Speedball Mike Bailey, I would love it. I would just absolutely love it. But I'm hoping for very good things from him moving forward.
Yeah, honestly, that's plausible to me.
I mean, at this point, anything. I love Danny Garcia. I keep saying it. I feel bad. I feel like a heel saying it. But at this point, anybody taking the TNT title off Danny Garcia is a good move.
Yeah, honestly, you could do it with him, or you could do it with Josh Alexander. Like either of the TNA guys, former TNA guys.
You're giving me the vapors.
And now you could almost properly fan yourself off with both hands.
Yes, we're getting there. I can go like this. I can't go any higher, really.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But hey, you're doing better.
No,
we talked a lot about the main event, so we're going to cover that now. As we mentioned, it was Orange Cassidy and Hechicero, and the other match for the Dynasty International Championship Eliminator tournament. That is very wordy.
You're doing your best, though, and I'm proud of you.
No, I mean, I said it clean. It's just a lot of syllables. Anyway, Hechicero focused a lot in this match on Orange's hand and wrist, and then eventually his knee in an attempt to prevent Orange from hitting the Orange Punch, which he did actually do, but Orange was able to win when he countered what I think was Hechicero's counter to another Tilt-A-Whirl DDT, and Orange got him into a mousetrap, and that kept Hechicero down for the 3 and the win. And then James, as you mentioned, Speedball came out onto the stage and gave a bow towards Orange as both men advanced into the 4-way match to go on to face Kenny Omega. So I was, as we say hi to Maria, what's going on? Good to see you as always. I was very disappointed in this match. I had very high hopes for it, as I just said. And Orange, it was funny at parts. Orange was able to do some pretty crazy things with his hands in his pockets, including completely dodge a Hechicero dropkick. He got stuck in the ropes, and then Orange came over and using just his legs got him into a pinfall, which was pretty impressive. We also saw Orange walk the ropes and then just jump off.
Yeah, I feel bad because like the match itself wasn't bad. Like,
yeah, Maria thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I'm happy Maria enjoyed it. I feel it was missing something. I can't tell you what that something was. It felt like it never hit that next gear that it really needed to bump up the energy and the excitement factor. I'm happy for Orange, who's getting back to winning ways. And again, I like Hechicero enough. He's a very unique luchador, and it's not like he's a newcomer to AEW. We've seen him several times at this point.
Yep, I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. I think if you're gonna use him, I don't think he's got to win in AEW. And I remember when they were doing that with some of the New Japan guys. Like I remember Suzuki came in and he lost and lost and lost and lost. And it's like, why are you here? Don't come here to lose, man.
Yeah.
But
he lost a lot singles wise. He had some tag wins, but
yeah, and that's fine. But it's not the same.
Yeah,
it's not the same. So I'm happy for Orange. I think this, obviously the outcome made sense, and I stand by that. The match wasn't bad. I just needed something a little bit more. Maybe it needed to go another 5 minutes, or at least another 3 minutes, maybe. But even then, it felt like it was dragging by the time we got to that finish.
Yeah, it's honestly why I have so few notes on it. And part of it was I was finishing setting up the show here, but the other part of it was like it didn't grab my attention. I think the way it might have done for Maria there, you was missing something. I think that's a good way to put it. I ended up, I think, watching or seeing more of it on my phone, just running through Twitter highlights really fast, just to make sure I didn't miss anything important that I did on the actual screen, which is very unfortunate because I really do like both of these guys. Yep. And much like Tony Khan, I love me some Orange Cassidy, which we were saying before, Maria, is probably why this main evented over Speedball debuting and facing off against Beast Mortos. So I don't know. There probably was another gear, James. Maybe it's like some more crazy finishers out of Hechicero, some more crazy escapes from Orange. Orange didn't really get a lot of offense in outside of the comedy stuff in the beginning. I think he hit a crossbody, he hit his Stun Dog Millionaire, and he hit his Tilt-A-Whirl DDT, and then he got in the mousetrap, and that was pretty much it for him. So there was a gear that it just never really got out of, and then it ended, and I was just like, oh, wow, that was just a very surprising ending. I liked the ending, and I liked the story they were trying to tell, where Orange's weapons, especially his biggest ones in the Orange Punch, and I guess the Beach Break to an extent too, because Hechicero going after his knee, those were taken away. So Orange resorts to his his last trick being the mousetrap and getting the win. So there's a good story in there somewhere. I just think the actual match was a little bit slow.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. And not every match, not every show is going to be a home run. We've talked about that before. And we know how good Orange is. We know how good Hechicero is. It's just something didn't connect tonight. It happens. Yeah. I know. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, following up, the ninth inning in the end of the game with Revolution, you got to set the table somewhere in the first inning as you start the next game as we go towards Dynasty. And, there's a good table setter. It reset some things. Again, it gave a lot of people time off. But, even if it was a single or maybe even a double, if you really like the episode, not everything has to be a home run, but they got on base with this one at least.
Exactly. And look, Speedball versus Orange Cassidy is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Plus whoever else makes it. Yeah,
it's going to rock.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for Speedball versus Orange. Did they say that's next week or is that Saturday?
So Saturday is going to be Mark Davis versus Mark Briscoe and Ricochet versus Shibata. The winner of those two matches during the 4-way, which I believe happens next week on Dynamite. I would have to double check that.
But I thought they specifically hyped up Orange versus Speedball. Or is that just they hyped up that the two of them made it to the Fatal 4-way?
They were hyping up the two of them made it to the Fatal 4-way.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right. So, yeah, that's going to be awesome. And Mark Briscoe most likely joining is going to be awesome. And my heart says Shibata because Kenny versus Shibata feeds my New Japan soul. But it's going to be Ricochet. And I can't complain. That match is going to be great, too. But, dang.
Yeah, no, I wish Shibata would win that. And I'll give me Kenny Shibata any day of the week. Although we'll get to the ops in a second. I have confirmed we have those two matches, Shibata, Ricochet, Briscoe, and Davis on Collision this Saturday. And then the 4-way is next week on Dynamite.
Okay.
Winner faces Kenny at Dynasty. So
I'll be honest with you, man. Dynasty is real tempting. Philly's not that far.
Mercedes thinks that Speedball is going to win the whole thing. She's calling it now.
You said Mercedes.
You
said Mercedes.
No, I said Speedball.
You said Mercedes. No. Instead of saying Maria, you said Mercedes.
Oh, my bad. I thought I was like, no, I said Speedball. Sorry, Maria. I'm reading multiple comments at once there. So, yes, Maria's saying Speedball is going to win the whole thing. I don't think he wins next week, but I also don't think he's involved in the finish. Or at least he's not, I don't think he gets.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I could see whoever else isn't involved in the finish being a singles match.
Yeah,
that could be fun. I know who I think is going to win, but it's going to be good no matter what. Truly, I think no matter what, whoever wins is going to be good.
Mercedes, Maria is saying it's okay if I call her Mercedes, so I'm good. Also, the reason I brought her up in the first place was Navarro is asking, what's up with Mercedes, Hogan, Monet? Why does she have all those belts? It's more like I was going to say belt collector Kenny or what's
Ultimo
the
Dragon.
Ultimo Dragon
Dragon.
with all the titles. She's just she's got the TBS championship. She's got the New Japan Strong Women's Championship because he defends that belt often enough over there. Plus, they don't care as much about it.
Yeah.
And then she actually owns 2 Rev Pro belts. It's really just the one unified title.
Yeah.
So it's why she has 4. She's 4 belts, but technically 3 championships. Monet.
It just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way.
Yeah. Plus, it just makes her look fantastic right now. She has been great. And she was brought up later, so we'll get to that soon. But let's head back up towards the top of the card. As I mentioned earlier, after the Ops stare down Kenny Omega, they had a match against Vinny Pacifico, Eli Theseus, and Gabriel Eros. As you can imagine, this did not last very long. All 3 men actually tagged in at one point. They got in, beat up their guy, and eventually it ended with Shibata finishing off with a sleeper into a PK. The only reason this is important, James, is on commentary, they were really hyping up the idea of the Ops winning the Trios Championships, which seems inevitable now.
Yeah, I agree. Now that Hook has his towel, which I made a big deal of weeks ago, and then they do it on friggin' Collision. No, I don't even know if they did it on. No, they did do it on Collision. He has his towel now. They're unstoppable. So, yes, I'm all for them going for the trios. I'll be honest, though, and this isn't something that anybody has said. I just want Kenny Omega versus Samoa Joe. That's so wrong. Am I not human? Am I not allowed to want? Because, boy, do I want this matchup.
That is something that never even crossed my mind. But
I don't know that they've ever wrestled before. I don't think they have. That would be amazing.
I want to Google this really fast. I wish I had a producer that could Google it for me.
That's crazy talk. That is crazy talk.
Let's see, Kenny Omega versus Samoa Joe. Yeah, you're not helping. I wish I could just go to cage match. All right, no, it says Joe's beat him. It says once.
I have to believe that was literally decades ago.
Steen, Ibushi, Nakamura, Joe. PCW way back in 2007, and Joe beat him.
Doesn't count. Doesn't count in the slightest. Son of a bitch.
Now I get my producer. Maria's saying they did. Apparently they did once, but yeah, it was a very, very indie match. So a long, long time ago. All right, let's keep things rolling. After that, we went to a backstage promo from Ricochet. Obviously, as we said he was facing off against Shibata. So he starts off by coping with his loss on Sunday by saying he didn't want Nana's ugly-ass robe anyway, but he does think that Kenny's International Championship will look good around his waist, and then he tells Shibata to not show up to Collision so that Ricochet can go and just give up so that Ricochet can go and fulfill his destiny of becoming a champion in AEW. Cool. After this, we had a whole recap of Revolution, and it was a pretty good recap, but what this ended up setting up is afterwards, it was announced that Jon Moxley and the Laugh is Prince. That's the point, Maria, and that's why it's a great laugh. Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland would be getting a rematch for the championship, this time in a street fight next week on Dynamite. The winner to go on to face Swerve at Dynasty, and then that set up these following promos. The first one being we had a post-Revolution backstage promo from Swerve where he laid out the challenge for the AEW World Championship at Dynasty, saying he became the first ever Black World Champion last year at Dynasty, and now he wants to have history repeat itself. Copeland then came over and mentions to Swerve that he never got pinned, so he's going to get his rematch with Moxley, which obviously he did, and then he might be facing Swerve at Dynasty, and if he doesn't beat Moxley and Swerve goes on to win the title, then Copeland is definitely going to be seeing Swerve in the future. Swerve says that's exactly what he would do. Cope says, I know, and then they fist bump and then leave. And then we went to commercial, and after we came back from commercial, we went to Jon Moxley backstage. Moxley says that he appreciates the irony of Copeland thinking he got lucky to escape with the title. He being Moxley was lucky to escape with the title when it was Copeland who used to be called, and I quote here, the world's greatest opportunist or something like that.
I get that the Ultimate Opportunist has to be owned by WWE. It has to be trademarked. So I thought that was like, if anybody is going to say something like that, Moxley is that guy.
Yeah.
So
I like him purposely getting it wrong. It made it better. Because it's like, he's like, I know your history, but I don't care enough about you to actually get it right. Mox says he should have taken Christian off the board long before what happened on Sunday happened. But the biggest mistake he actually made was underestimating Copeland's toughness, grit, and desire to make it to the top no matter what's put in front of him, as Moxley knew he had Copeland hurt in that match, and Copeland just kept on coming. Therefore, Moxley says they can forget the rules and forget countouts, laying out the challenge for the street fight, saying he never makes the same mistake twice, and he will not underestimate Copeland again. So, James, we have our rematch next week. I have to imagine all the Death Riders are coming back.
yeah, there's going to be some nonsense, some chicanery.
And we heard from Jay White a little bit later, and so you can touch upon it if you want. We'll talk about it towards the end, but I don't know if he's going to have the help of the Switchblade, him being Copeland, next week, because it seems like Switch is like, well, I did my part. You still lost. Yeah. I want the title now.
Which feels way more in character for him.
Yeah.
Going to the comments, we have Navarro saying Cope versus Moxley again, sigh. And then Maria saying that Toni has to be trolling us with this match again. Look, I'm not thrilled, especially because the first match was just not good. I have to believe that they're running this back because they know the match wasn't good and they want to actually deliver an entertaining matchup this time.
Yeah.
I have to believe that's why this is happening. Otherwise, this is nonsense. I'm not offended that it's happening one way or the other because it's happening on Dynamite. It's not like it's taking up another pay-per-view slot. Like, it's not like it's happening at Dynasty and Swerve is pushed back. It's just something along the way until they get to Swerve. That's fine for me. But between the Swerve Cope's promo and this Mox promo, I really feel like this episode of Dynamite was just all set up for next week and for Dynasty. You know?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Like I called it earlier, it was a table setter after Revolution. Yep. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
After this, we saw it was mounted to our first real match of the evening as Unlikely Bedfellows, Hologram, and Powerhouse Hobbs face off against Dralístico and Brian Cage. Now, this came about just due to a lot of hatred between people. Hologram and Dralístico have a lot of beef together. Especially involving the Beast Mortos, as he came out with Dralístico. And then Hobbs and Cage has obviously been going at it as Hobbs has faced off against the Don Callis family. It should also be noted that Hologram had somebody accompany him to the ring as Harley Graham shadowed him down there. And she probably had the funniest spot of maybe the night as we came back from commercial with Harley Graham preventing Mortos from attacking Hologram on the floor by mesmerizing him with a dance. I will say that he was not the only one who was mesmerized.
Bonk.
Yeah, no, I deserve it. Anyway, towards the end of this match, we had Hologram take out Cage on the outside by running the ropes as Hobbs was like leaned up against them, and then Hologram springboarded off of Hobbs's chest.
That was so cool.
Into Cage.
It reminded me of, that viral clip of a very young Seth Rollins, who was definitely still Tyler Black at that point, where he does the moonsault off the very heavy set guy on the outside of the ring.
I might have seen it once a long time ago.
I guarantee you've seen it. It's such like an iconic like wrestling meme at this point that there's no way you haven't seen it.
I think I have. It's been a minute. It's definitely something I've seen in Botchamania, and I'm just like not thinking it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Also, there's my weekly Botchamania reference.
That show that we're on?
Yeah, that we were on a couple episodes ago.
Yep.
Anyway, after that, Hobbs got back in the ring, and Dralístico was able to stun Hobbs momentarily and went up for a springboard, but Hobbs just straight up caught him and immediately planted him with a spine buster, and he was able to pick off the win.
There it is. Show it, producer boy.
Yeah, just keep it muted so we don't get in trouble. Oh yeah, off the fan.
Yeah.
But yes, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a producer boy or a little B-roll?
He might be having technical difficulties.
Yeah, see, I'm not the only one with bad internet.
Right.
Anyway, after the match, Lance Archer and Mark Davis came down, but they just kind of jaw-jacked with Cage, and they didn't really do anything. James, this was a fun match. It was, like I said, strange bedfellows. You kind of combined two feuds into one match, but Hologram and Hobbs were kind of a cool team together. I saw people calling them Hobbsagram. And yeah, this was just a fun, good match. I don't really have too much to say about it otherwise.
I don't know what's going on. All right, play it, producer boy.
You got it? Yeah. I feel like I never realized that was Tyler Black.
Yep, that is good old Seth Rollins.
He's missing the streak in his hair. That's
that's what it is. Again, I feel like I'm just being a Debbie Downer about tonight's Dynamite, which sucks because of how much I loved Revolution. And I just don't like being a Debbie Downer in general. But I noticed just a lot of clunkiness in this matchup, a lot of awkwardness. I felt like there were a couple of points where Dralístico and Hobbs were just missing a step together. Like, I noticed Dralístico did an awkward corner spot. He did an awkward pause before the big jump for the finish. There was just a lot that didn't really jive, and I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I noticed it a couple of times in the matchup. I enjoyed the matchup. Like, there was some really fun spots. Like, the moonsault off of Hobbs' chest was great. The catch for the finish was great. There really was some good stuff here. Harley Graham. I don't know why we're still doing this, but I'm here for it. I'm not complaining in the slightest. It doesn't make any sense, but let's keep doing it.
I love that, Harley Graham, the original Harley Graham, unmasked and revealed herself to be Harley Cameron. But now this Harley Graham is not that Harley Graham, and nor is it Harley Cameron.
This is Mr. America. This is Mr. America levels of confusion. But yeah, I enjoyed this enough. I'd say this was my second favorite match of the night.
Yeah, mine too. Again, there wasn't a lot, as Maria pointed out. It was a very promo-heavy Dynamite. And again, because we explained, everyone fucking hurt. So, and Eric's saying the show was decent. You're wrong, James. And I don't think James was calling it bad. It was a decent show. Yeah. It was promo-heavy. And a lot of the times we're expecting a lot of matches. And a lot of matches, I think, usually of a higher caliber than we saw overall tonight.
Yeah.
That, it wasn't the best episode of Dynamite.
I thought it was just, I think the worst thing I could say about it was an inconsistent show.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Because, the whole thing we just did with Moxley and Swerve and Copeland, like half of it was a recap and then something from Sunday.
Yeah.
So, and if we move on to the next segment, the next segment was another thing from Sunday, and it was another interview backstage post-Revolution, this time with the Hurt Syndicate. So they're asked what's next for them, and Shelton just responds he wants to keep beating up people, which is great. He's just like, who do we get to beat up next? That's all I want to know. And MVP's like, yeah, see, this is what the Hurt Syndicate's about. And he gets really hyped. And he's like, look, the Hurt Syndicate plays as hard as they work, and he gives Shelton and Bobby the week off, even from TV this week, saying that they can go party in LA or even head to Vegas, whatever they want to do. And Bobby's like, we can hit Gold's Gym. And MVP's like, no, you're not going to Gold's Gym. Go out. Go get some ladies, have some drinks. You guys deserve it. And Shelton's like, all right, yeah, like we're cool. We'll go out. We'll do that. But we're not giving up our sets. And MVP's like, yeah. And so Shelton and Bobby walk away. And MVP's like, see, that's what makes the Hurt Syndicate great. Even with a week off, they want to continue to work and continue to hurt people. So this was just cool. I just like hearing from them. And it was a funny segment. But it did set up the fact that Bobby and Shelton were not here live this week on Dynamite, which came up later in the show.
Bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was cool. And I appreciate them, especially considering I bet you the card got a little jumbled around with so many people being out. I appreciated the fact that this and the Swerve Copeland thing were things that you usually see on the internet after the show. And you usually have to go find them on Twitter, and sometimes they do a super cut of them on YouTube or whatever. We got to see some of them on Dynamite, and that's something that people always complain about. So I'm not going to complain that they were on Dynamite tonight, because we're always saying, oh, I wish this was on TV. I wish this was on TV.
Exactly.
And we can't sit here and be like, oh, they put it on TV. But I didn't like it.
Oh, well put.
After this, we got a video package for Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May that covered the entirety of their feud together. It was about 3.5 minutes. I thought it was very well put together. It made me emotional all over again. And that led directly into a promo from Timeless Toni Storm on the stage. And I was able to quote a lot of this or paraphrase it, because this was chef's kiss, a great end to the feud with Mariah. So
yes,
Toni comes out and says, with stitches in her lips, staples in her head, and after a long dramatic pause, glass in her ass, she stands before you to say that this tramp is still the champ. Toni says that while she lost part of her heart in her Hollywood ending, it was well worth it, but now she stands before you as champion of a very deep and talented division. Toni then makes reference to some of the other champions in AEW, saying that one title is in a bloody briefcase and that they have forever champions and belt collectors, which gets a very big reaction from the crowd. But when you fight her, it's like going to the zoo, because she bleeds like a pig, licks like a giraffe, and will eat you like a lion. However, you will never hear her meow, because she promises she is no pussy. And then, just to continue to mix metaphors here, nobody swings like Toni Storms, and she tells the ladies it's time to put their keys in the bowl and get this orgy started. It will be messy and it will be sweaty, but it will always be timeless. And as her music plays and she takes her bows, Toni gets blindsided by Megan Bayne, who lays her out and poses over her. So this was great. I'm glad I was able to get down most of what she said.
No, you nailed it.
There's a lot of mixing of very heady metaphors there. But I like the fact that she called out some of the other champions. She not only alluded to Moxley, which I thought was very interesting. She also alluded to, I believe, Athena and Mercedes Moné. And then you set up the Bane, who was just running roughshod over the women's division tonight, which we'll talk about more later. So just a very good back-to-back segments. This was 7 minutes about in total, 3.5 for that package, and then 3.5 for Toni's promo here. So honestly, a great 7 minutes of television, and probably some of the best of the night.
Still not enough to make up for the fact that they didn't main event the show on Sunday, but I'll take it. We keep talking about it. No matter what show we're reviewing, whether it's TNA or NXT or AEW, no matter what, the women are just killing it lately. Like they've always been great, but like it feels like everything is just firing on all cylinders across all companies right now. Toni, literally, like we said before, being held together by stitches, gum, spit, and rubber bands, but she was there. She was there. And you and I, we're big fans of Megan Bayne. So I'm very intrigued by what is next for her. I not what's next for her, but like how the trajectory of this is looking. Because she's getting her hands dirty in lots of different areas. So will that come to will she come to rue that, or will she overcome it, the Megasis? I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed this quite a bit, and I'm happy. See, it's interesting because when Toni was champion before she lost it to Mariah, it was one of those situations where it was hard for me to get invested in challengers because we all kind of knew it was going to go to Mariah. Like the writing was on the wall for a good amount of time that Mariah was going to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
Now that does not feel like the case. Now it feels like potentially any challenger could be the challenger. Do I think Megan Bain's going to be the challenger who does it? Probably not. Probably not. But at least there's a chance in my eyes.
Yeah. Bain is always going to be somebody, when she doesn't have a title, she is instantly credible as a challenger.
Yes.
So at least the way they're booking her right now. But she also has the look and the feel of somebody who can instantly credibly become a challenger. Yeah. So, Maria's saying Megan should get the rocket strapped to her back and push, and she should just win the championship at Dynasty. I don't know if they're going to do that, strictly only due to the fact, and it's kind of has to do with what Eric brought up. He thought Toni was going to call out Mercedes. She kind of made reference to her.
Yeah.
And she made reference to Athena. And we're setting all that Athena stuff up with Mercedes. So I feel like there's a lot of dominoes that are going to fall where we're going to get something like Athena versus Mercedes, and then maybe Mercedes versus Toni at All In.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts in the women's division right now, which is cool because I think towards the top of the men's card, there's a lot of moving parts with Copeland, Swerve, Ospreay, Switchblade, Jay White. Like, there's a lot of guys.
As there should be. You're fighting for the top prize in your division, in your sport. So you don't want to see it just be, well, I'm just going to wait in line until it's my turn. I want to see chaos going after the world titles. I want to believe that it's a mad dash across the field for everybody to try and be the one to cross that finish line and go for the title. So, yeah, just this was good. I enjoyed it. And more Toni is always a good thing.
Absolutely. And, Bain mixing it up later, which we'll get into with Willow again and Statlander again, they're also always instantly credible challengers. So,
absolutely.
So many moving parts. And I guess just to put a bow on this, as Maria said, it was a phenomenal few days for women's wrestling.
Yeah.
It absolutely was. Between Sunday with Mercedes and Momo and Toni and Mariah, everything that happened on Tuesday on NXT, and then Toni's promo again tonight. They've been doing so well. So Maria also saying Mercedes beats Athena at Dynasty and then faces Timeless Toni Storm in a winner take all. That seems like a lot.
So I don't think Athena's going to get involved before Mercedes and Toni face off. But I do think we're going to see, not necessarily a winner take all, but the story is going to be, is Mercedes going to be able to add the AEW Women's Championship to her resume? Wow.
So you think Mercedes will face Toni as TBS champion?
I think there's more of a chance of that. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry. The dog is just going crazy right now. My bad, guys.
He hates this idea, James. That's why.
I think it's possible. I think, like, when you're saying that these are the two best women in your division, and arguably they are. Arguably, Mercedes and Toni are the two best women in your division. It adds a lot of stakes when you have that much gold on the line. Now, does it create a sort of awkward situation where does Toni now carry all those belts and then she has to lose all those belts? Yeah. But to crown the champion, it's not the worst idea. Hell, WWE just did it, that they had not a unification match, but a winner take all match on NXT. Granted, that's 2 belts versus 5, but that all said, I do think Mercedes, like the story that she has with Billy Starks, is leading to her versus Athena.
It has to be.
It has to. Even though Billy is right now sort of on the outs with Athena. That's the storyline. Athena is not happy with her. She's kind of off doing her own thing. No matter what, all roads are leading back to Athena.
Yeah, which is why I think Billy beats Athena, Athena beats Mercedes, and Mercedes faces Toni. I don't know when and where, but I feel like that's kind of the way those dominoes are going to fall.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but again, a lot of moving parts, so who knows?
Yep.
All right, let's keep it moving. After this, we had the Beast Mortos against Speedball Mike Bailey match, and then after that, we went into a backstage interview with Christian Cage and the Patriarchy. So Renee tries to ask Christian about his decision to execute the contract in the manner in which he did, making it a triple threat match. But Christian refuses to talk to her as she is related to John Moxley, and he forces her to exit.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Now, is he like a shitbag because it was just things didn't go his way? Yes. But if anybody else was like, Renee, I don't really feel comfortable with you because your husband tried pouring Drano down another man's throat. Fucking valid. I don't think that's wrong.
Orange has never even brought that up to her. Which is, I don't know. Whatever. I think that's what would be his answer. Is just whatever.
This pod is the third or fourth best of all the pods in the world.
Thanks for your support, bud. Anyway, Renee eventually leaves, and Christian addresses the camera directly, stating that he should still have his contract, as he specifically told the referee he wanted a one-on-one match, which he didn't. And then Moxley got him an illegal chokehold, and that he never tapped out from that. And the referee eventually called it, even though he was just controlling his breathing to make a big comeback and break up out of the hold. And eventually he gets interrupted by Nick Wayne, who says that Christian is making excuses, and if he had stuck to the plan that they had made, he might be AEW World Champion right now. So Nick thinks that Christian owes all of them an explanation and an apology.
Oofa.
Christian takes a breath, and he says that he is sorry that it has come to this, and he shoves Nick up against the wall. And then when Mother Wayne steps in, Christian tells her that she better step aside or she'll be back working the midnight shift at Waffle House.
That might be one of the darkest things I've ever heard.
And it gets darker as Christian gets in Nick's face, asking who he is to question him, saying neither he nor his biological father ever won any world titles. And Nick is lucky that Christian found him so that he didn't end up dying in front of his mother like his father did. Christian then says he will be AEW World Champion if it's the last thing he does on this earth. So he suggests Nick shut his mouth, as the next time they have this conversation, it will be the last time. Christian then storms off, and Kip Sabian kind of gives Nick and his mother a weird look, and he leaves. And then Nick and his mother share glances as they're kind of shook from the whole thing. So looks like, James, we have some of the first cracks in the patriarchy. Maybe Nick Wayne finally breaking off from his adopted father.
I don't know why I'm as invested in this as I am, but I am. Like, I have not ever really cared at all about Nick Wayne. I just haven't. But I thought this was a really fun segment. I thought this was a really fun promo. And I could already tell from where we met Nick Wayne to where he is now, the development is there. Whether that's being attached to Christian for so long and just hearing one of the best on the mic, or he's just finally picking something up with it. I think no matter what, it's just a good development, which is what we want when these young guys are partnered up with the older guys, right? Like, we want to see for Hook, we want to see him develop more into a Samoa Joe or a Shibata. So with Nick Wayne, I want to see, if you're being partnered with Christian, I want to see the fruits of that. And I think tonight showed that. I think it bore fruit. So, fun bit. Again, I know we were talking about like dead family members, but I still think the midnight shift at Waffle House is worse.
It's just dangerous, to be honest.
So I enjoyed this for what it is. Christian is very no pun fully intended. Christian feels uncaged at this point, and I really want to see what he comes up with next. Like, Cope didn't acknowledge him at all. Cope didn't say anything about Christian when he was talking with Swerve. It was all about the title, and maybe that's the idea, that Christian is just an annoyance, a distraction from the title that he wants. But a lot of people are rightfully angry with Christian, and I want to see that come into play.
Yeah. Danny's saying he's glad that Christian isn't catching any of the flack from Copeland because he's much better than Copeland, and he doesn't want to see him dragged down by his nonsense. I guess, I think a lot of people, there have been reports that they really wanted to get rid of the contract because it was just kind of getting in the way of the booking. I've seen some of those. I don't know. I guess, they're not really I don't even think they're mad at Christian because he probably had the most exciting point of the match.
Yeah, I agree.
And, and it didn't end up working out, but the match was boring before that. Everyone popped for Christian coming in, and then it just ended on a flat note. So I think people were more mad at the match and then the booking itself, and not really Christian so much.
I agree.
Maria saying she likes this story, but to do it right after Yuta stood up for himself is redundant. But Yuta also went right back to Moxley, as we saw on Sunday.
Exactly.
So.
That was a red herring. That was a false narrative.
Yep.
This has some truth to it, I think.
Yeah. Eric saying all roads lead to Copeland and Christian. And
I
Danny,
think eventually.
Yeah. He'll say if Copes runs single-handedly when they get together. Navarro is saying that Christian hasn't missed since he became the father figure, and that's true. He has been great. I think some of his feuds have run a little long. Like the Hook one just kind of went on forever for whatever weird reason, but it was still pretty good. And Maria saying Christian was always a better worker than Copeland. Let's be real.
I know that is a popular theory or a popular concept, not a theory. I'm not going to argue because I do think Christian is more technically sound than Edge was or Cope is. But I think Cope wrestles a more main event type of match than Christian does. Although I do think Christian is capable of it. I've seen it in TNA. It's just I don't really think that's how he wrestles his matches all that much.
Yeah. And I think one last note on Nick Wayne. I agree with you that you put guys in positions for mentorship like you put Wayne with Christian so that whatever their weaknesses are, they can help turn into strengths. And I think a good allegory here is Garcia with Jericho. Danny Garcia wasn't the best promo guy. He was a very good in-ring wrestler for how young he was, but, he didn't really have a character. Put him with Jericho for however long it was. And now he's somebody who, even if he isn't having the best TNT title run, is still pretty damn over.
Absolutely.
So hopefully you're hoping to see that same sort of growth from Nick Wayne, who, reminder, is still, I think, under the age of 20.
God, that makes
and if he isn't, he's 20.
That makes me feel so old.
Join the club. We got jackets. Danny's saying
cold. I'm getting the shivers being this old.
Danny's saying Maria's right. Copeland wrestles a much more stuck in 2008 type of match.
I don't know. I disagree.
All right. All right. After this, I think we came back from commercial and then went to another post-revolution backstage segment, this time when Lexi Nair was trying to get a word with MJF, when she had been outside of his dressing room for 10 minutes. So she knocked and let herself in. And then when she does, she sees MJF yelling at himself in a mirror, calling himself a fraud before punching the mirror. And then he noticed she's there. So he screams at her to get out, and then her and the cameraman retreat. That leads to MJF coming to the ring for a promo live. And he comes out and he says that his head, hand, and body all hurt. But what hurts the most is everyone knows that he had that match won on Sunday. He then claims that the cowardly cowboy decided to take a cheap shot on him the way he did in 2019 and pick up another fluke win. Still, Max has thought about it, and he is no longer upset because of how much smarter he is than Hangman, since he always thinks 10 steps ahead. So this thing between he and Hangman is long from over. At this point, MJF is interrupted by the music of the Hurt Syndicate, and MVP comes out, obviously solo, since he gave Bobby and Shelton the week off, as we saw earlier. MVP gets to the ring, the two go face-to-face, and they say each other's names, or I guess initials, and then they hug each other, surprisingly, with Max happily asking how MVP's doing, and MVP saying he's out here, he's doing great, and he's actually out here to talk to Max. MVP then runs down his history with MJF, I think starting with Max driving him in a car somewhere and then working together on some indies, saying he always saw superstardom in MJF's future because he saw how brilliant Max was as a kid. And then Max has gone on to do everything he said he was going to do. And for that, MVP is very proud of him. What MVP is not proud of him is for what happened on Sunday. He knows MJF isn't proud of it either, asking why Max is out here whining to these people instead of being angry and hurting people. MVP accuses MJF of losing his edge, saying that the boys in the back don't respect or fear him anymore as they now fear the Hurt Syndicate. So MVP says, as he was once able to help MJF a long time ago, now maybe he can help Max again. And he pulls out one of his business cards, saying he handed a bunch of those out when he first got here, but the meaning of the card has changed since it now means it delivers championships. MVP says that the card, as he said earlier, in his tenure in AEW, is a golden ticket, and it's time for he and Max to discuss some business. MJF initially rebuffs MVP's offer, saying he's no longer the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid he once was. He's MJF. He was the AEW World Champion for over 600 days, no matter what these people think. But MVP retorts, saying, focus on the word was, before handing Max's card and leaving. What was 612 days? Is that the specific number?
For what? For MVP?
No, for MJF. Yeah.
Title reign was 406. 400.
I don't know why I thought you said 600.
No, it was not. That's almost 2 years as champion.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. Okay, so maybe it was 400 days. That, either I made a typo or I'm going deaf or both. It's probably both. But either way, Chip, this was a very interesting interaction to me. I wasn't expecting these two guys to be in a ring together, let alone talk to each other.
This was my segment of the night.
Yeah,
that's saying a lot because Kenny opened the show. But
and Toni.
What was that?
And Toni Storm.
But this was a very fun, unexpected promo battle. This was a very fun, unexpected interaction. And granted, these are two characters that make a lot of sense together. They really do. They're big mouth guys. They have a certain sense of style that they share. And they're both these arrogant, I'm better than you heels. Like MVP's was a lot more aggressive, but MJF absolutely plays that up as well. And it just feels like a good connection between the two. So I love that there is a little bit of tension. It adds to the story. It adds to the mystery of what could happen. But man, I'm a little tempted to see MJF in the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah, it's such a interesting dynamic. And even if it's not a full-blown faction, and MVP is more just, helping to guide
people.
And manage him, it feels like just, how MJF got his edge back, and I think it could work because, we have seen MJF go on a bit of a skid here. He's had some weird matches. He's been going for, some really cheap, easy heat and some cheap, easy wins when he does pick them up. And he's kind of not the killer he was. And we kind of got it back in the Hangman feud, but now he's lost and he's backstage throwing fits and calling himself a fraud. So something's up with him and he needs somebody to get him back to where he was. MVP is not the guy I expected it to be, but it kind of just works. So I know Maria is saying MJF is selling out. I think he's buying in, and he's buying into maybe not the Hurt Syndicate as a whole, but he's buying into MVP.
I'd agree. And it's, again, I said it before, it feels like a dynamic that really makes a lot of sense and really works together. So in terms of storylines, this has me glued because I'm very intrigued as to what could come next. For something that started out so unpredictable, I'm sure it will continue as such.
Yeah, I feel like every turn the last 3 months MJF has taken has been like, wait, there? And a couple of them have been wrong turns.
Yeah.
But they've gotten back on the path, and they've taken some surprising ones, but from Jarrett to Rhodes to Hangman to MVP is a very interesting route.
Yep.
But damn, if it hasn't been mostly entertaining.
I mean,
at least not unpredictable. Navarro is saying, and I know you mentioned this earlier, and I was going to scroll back up, but thank you for making me not have to. MJF possibly joining the Syndicate was interesting, but we all know MJF with factions isn't when we get his best work. I digress, but I'm optimistic. I think it depends. Sometimes we've gotten good stuff from MJF in a faction. The Pinnacle was mainly the only time. It was quite literally the pinnacle of him in factions. But sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, which is why I don't think we get him as a full-blown member of the Pain Syndicate or the Hurt Syndicate. You screwed me up with the Pain Syndicate thing, man.
Works better. It works better.
Yeah, I think so. But I don't think we get him as a full-blown member, but as an affiliate of MVP, I think sounds better. Eric's saying this is just setting up Wardlow to start helping MJF again. If that isn't regression, I don't know what is. So I think you got to avoid that.
And I really do think there is a world where those two work together again. I don't think this is it.
Yeah.
No reason to.
Because the only way it works is like MJF has to see him as an equal, and heel MJF will never see anyone else as an equal. You know, like maybe MVP for a little while, but
I mean, but even then he was telling him off, saying, "I'm not the same bushy-haired, bright-eyed kid that you knew."
Yeah, because even MJF actually respects him, and something he mentioned at the top of this the segment. But yeah, I don't think he sees him as an. I don't think he sees anyone as an equal. So. Yeah, I think the only way you get them reuniting is if they're faces, and I don't think we're seeing MJF as a face for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think so either, nor should he.
Yeah. After this, we went to commercial, and then we came back with another Long Island Max. This time it was Platinum Max Caster out to give his open challenge. Caster cuts a quick promo. Yeah, you don't have to stay here for this. Saying that he has the top-selling shirt on Shop AEW.
My bad.
I got it. Yeah, that one. Thank you, producer boy. Anyway, Caster says he has the top-selling shirt on Shop AEW, which makes him the best member that came out of the Acclaimed. And then he tries to get the crowd starting to do his chant again. And actually, I did want James here to say this. This is clearly Chuck Taylor's doing. This is something Chuck E.T. did back in the day. And Chuck definitely got Caster doing it. Anyway, when the crowd decides to not do it, and they start booing instead, he calls the crowd from Fresno stupid, and he says that the person who answers his open challenge will be stupid as well. And then he calls the person out, and the open challenge is answered by a very pissed off Konosuke Takeshita. So Takeshita comes to the ring, and the bell immediately rings, but Caster, still mic in hand, begs off, saying there's no way Takeshita is out there to fight him, as he's the best wrestler alive, and he would destroy Takeshita. It must obviously be that Takeshita is down there to offer him a spot in the Don Callis family, saying they could do so much for each other, like main eventing the Tokyo Dome, or getting Max out of a recording contract, or doing what Takeshita couldn't do and defeating Kenny Omega. And Takeshita gets pissed and just slaps the shit out of Max and knocks him out cold. Takeshita then goes to pin him, but after two, he lifts him up off the mat and then just hits him with a raging fire to add insult to injury, and then decides to pin him for the 3 count and the win. So very, very quick segment there, James. But Caster got eaten alive by Takeshita, and that was fun.
No, he did. And I want to know what the payoff is going to be for this.
Bowens.
No, I get that, but what's the payoff there? It's not really a payoff. It's something transitioning for Bowens. But then what's the payoff for Caster? Like, why are we doing this?
Right now, it's funny. It keeps him on TV, and it continues to just get heat on people coming out and squashing him. Good heat or bad.
And I totally agree with that. But that should build to something. Otherwise, you're just creating a loser. And that's fine for comical sense. But this was a guy who, yes, things were definitely souring with the Acclaimed by the end, that fans were just getting tired of it. But let's not pretend that the Acclaimed wasn't one of the most over acts in AEW for a good long time. So to just say, you know what, we're just going to turn Max Caster into the loser of the company with nothing beyond that, I don't want to believe that's the case. I just don't want to. So I'm very intrigued. I hope it builds to something. Like, I still have PTSD from years ago when Drew McIntyre was in his initial run in WWE, and he was just the loser that he could not get a win, and then he got fired. Like, kayfabe fired. Like there was no resolution to that where he rebounded and got that big win and it was all worth it. So I am a little worried. I have more faith in them here than I did over there, but I hope he gets something soon. And Takeshita, just a beast. Just there's nothing we need to say about Takeshita. He got a dominant win in what felt like 30 seconds.
It would have been 5, but he lifted Caster up off the mat after he knocked him out cold.
Which feels so real for the character. Yeah. I love this happened so fast, Don Callis couldn't even join commentary.
Don didn't even come out on the stage. I wouldn't even be surprised if Don's like, I didn't even know Takeshita was going to do that. I'm not mad if he did.
I was in the bathroom and I came out and he had a match? What the hell?
And Takeshita's out there just knocking Caster unconscious. Also, real quick, James, I mentioned it when you stepped away for a second, that Caster's chant is clearly Chuck Taylor's doing, right?
I didn't think about that, but I love it.
I've been seeing people on Reddit saying, like, yeah, no, this is Chuck Taylor, because I'm pretty sure he had a very similar chant back in PWG that he used to get everyone to do.
The crowd is trying. I saw some people in the crowd trying. I don't know if we'll get there, but I think we're going to get close.
It's too much. It's too fast. And he doesn't let build it up long enough, but that's the point. But if you gave the crowd a chance, they'd get it. They're going to get it in a couple of weeks. Like there's going to be a really good crowd somewhere, and they're going to get it, and that's going to be your payoff.
I agree. Oh.
All right. After this live snuff film, we went backstage to Chris Jericho. We actually went to a video package of Jericho and the Learning Tree beating down who was supposed to be Jericho's opponent on the pre-show on Sunday, Gravity, and stealing his mask before Bandito came down to save his brother. And then Jericho kicked the shit out of him, literally and figuratively, in front of both their mother and sister, who had gotten in the ring to protect their sons. Jericho says that he's actually shown holding Gravity's mask, which was really cool. It was kind of like in the last Poor York situation. Saying Gravity is what has entered their situation, being him and Bandito, after he embarrassed the two brothers in front of their mother and scared their sister. Jericho is unsure of why it's Bandito who is getting this level of wrath, but maybe it's because it is the time that he has decided to stop letting the people around him become so comfortable. So this was a bit longer and a bit better. I was just trying to sum it up, but Jericho was pretty fucking sinister here.
I'm seeing Jericho this weekend for he's going to be at Monster Mania, a horror convention.
So for the film he was in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask him. I'm like, hey man, why are you being such a dick to the luchadors? But I guess he just wanted to get ahead of it before Chad Gable does on Raw. But yeah, no, this had a little. I mean, he said it. He said this word for word. This had a little more gravity to it because that's what's entered this feud. There's gravity to these things now. There's depth to these things now. There's weight to this. So, okay, look. I don't think Bandito wins, but it would be really cool if he did.
I think so, especially like if he won in front of his mother and his brother like helped him win and shit. Like I think it'd be a good win. But yeah, Derek, this was just ice cold from him, man. I liked it a lot. There's a real tonal shift from the Learning Tree that we've gotten over the last few months, which I have also enjoyed. It annoyed me into liking it, but
wow, that's Stockholm syndrome.
No, but like it was so annoying. I figured I started, and I did this a little bit earlier. I was picking up what he was putting down and being annoying that I had to boo him. So I liked how annoying he was being because it made me want to boo him. But now this is just like stone cold killer Jericho, and I'm like, okay, let's see what comes out of this now.
We know that Jericho is capable of pulling off almost anything. We've seen it over literal decades of professional wrestling with his career, that he could be the funny guy. He could be the funny babyface, the funny heel. He could be the serious babyface, the serious heel. He can do so many different things. The reality is, and we've been saying it, he just needed to go away for a while, and he never did.
Yeah.
So it makes it harder for a lot of people to appreciate anything that he's doing, no matter how good it may be. So I think he's going to have a good one-on-one match with Bandito for the title. I think this feud has more gravity than I thought it ever would have had. But I don't know. I'm hesitant to get too invested. A lot of this, I have to wonder what is going on with the ROH TV deal that they were angling for. We know they didn't get it, but we know that they were pushing hard for it.
Yeah.
So I don't. To me, it's a sign that if Bandito wins, I think that means the TV deal is not on the table for the foreseeable future. Whatever. Good for Jericho.
Do you know when the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view is?
It's a great question. It usually is Super Card of Honor, which is typically WrestleMania weekend.
Say Ring of Honor next pay-per-view. Yep, thank you for not telling me.
Well, no, it might not be announced. They have been specifically not announcing pay-per-views ahead of time for just issues with WWE.
Yeah, WWE keeps running against their stuff, and see, Super Card of Honor is supposed to be, according to the AI, which is wrong sometimes, I will admit, but that seems to make sense.
Yep. As of right now, nothing official.
Yeah, but all right. So it seems to be around then. So that's soon. So yeah, I could then building up.
But I don't know if you read the whole thing. It said that those plans are nixed, that they're not happening.
Yeah.
So,
but even if it's around there, it's still soon.
Yeah.
So I think they are probably building this match up towards a pay-per-view.
I love when they build up Ring of Honor pay-per-views on AEW TV and not on Ring of Honor TV. I'm not even somebody who hates the Ring of Honor presence in AEW. I just hate that there isn't a Ring of Honor presence in Ring of Honor.
Fair. Yeah, he's on the show, I guess. They probably taped some stuff for him, but
yeah.
And I'll say this just to close the loop on it. Yeah, you said Jericho needed to go away, which is something I've said for a while now on this pod, that we just needed a chance to miss him.
Yep.
And there were quite a few weeks there, almost a month, where we were only seeing Jericho for about a minute at a time on Dynamite, and he was sequestered mostly to Collision. So, and Ring of Honor. So unless you were watching Collision, he did kind of go away for a little bit, and it kind of works.
It's not the same.
I know it's not, but it helped a little.
I'm speaking as somebody who still has even a little bit of goodwill with Jericho left. He needs to actually just go tour with Fozzy for like a month. Just a month. Do a month of touring, or like if you really want to be cool, do 2 months with Fozzy, come back, and I guarantee you fans will be way more open to him.
Yeah, whether it's, if he loses the title, he disappears for a month or two, comes back, face or heel, he'll get a huge, he'd probably get a pretty decent reaction. So I think I can see that playing out. If, he loses the title to Bandito at whatever the next pay-per-view is and he disappears for a while. Seems to make sense.
Yep.
All right, next up, we had Willow Nightingale face off against Penelope Ford. I will jump towards the end of this match. After hitting a thrust kick, Willow charges at Penelope, but Ford hit the Matrix and then hit Willow with the stunner. But Penelope went for it again, and Willow countered, shoving her into the ropes. So Willow hit the ropes herself and nailed Ford with a pounce to pick up the win, which is interesting. She doesn't always win with the pounce, but I kind of liked it.
Yeah, me too.
After the match, Ford grabbed a chair and attacked Willow with it, but Chris Statlander came down for the save and drop-kicked the chair into Ford, knocking her out of the ring. And then when Willow came to, she thought Statlander had attacked her and started getting her face. And Stat was like, no, it wasn't me. I tried to help you. And then as the two women are arguing, they're both taken down by Megan Bayne. And then Bayne gets Statlander up and hits her with the F5. It's the Destiny something, but it's an F5. And then posed over Statlander. So as I mentioned earlier, Megan Bayne just running roughshod tonight. But the match was good enough. I accidentally had to skip some of it because my Max lagged. So
Max was being weird with me tonight too. Yeah, not during this matchup, but it happened a couple of times.
So yeah, I was already behind because I had paused a couple of times to like do stuff for dinner / take notes or whatever, and it started lagging. So I just jumped live and I ended up in the commercial. So I missed a decent chunk of the beginning, but the back half seemed pretty good. And I feel a little bad for Penelope. She's come back just to lose a bunch, but she's jumping to the stars, and she's in a very interesting position right now, at least where she's kind of allied with Megan Bayne, but not really. So.
What I would love to see happen is that whatever this turns into, Ford is somehow the one who comes out on top. Because everyone is just focusing on Megan Bayne, and Bayne takes out who she takes out, and they take Bayne out. She's the one, when all the dust is settled, she's the one still standing.
4-way for the number one contender to Toni Storm, and Penelope wins.
Bring it on. And I'm just going to throw something out there because, you know, I'm lamenting the usage of Penelope Ford. Where the hell is Jamie Hayter?
Oh, she's had a visa issue for a little bit. So
all right, fair enough.
She's working because SRS put out we know where Jamie Hayter is, pay $5.99, and then Hayter was like, I'll save you all a few bucks. I have a visa issue. I'll be back soon.
That was I like Sean, but that was baller on her part.
Yeah,
I love that. But yeah,
I understand you got to run your business, but
yeah, the matchup was fine. I feel for Penelope, but good on Willow.
Yeah,
you know, I feel like they've kind of just been holding off on Willow. She had the epic moment with Marina Shafir. You know, she had the epic moment, but nothing came from it. You know.
Well, I also think Willow's. I don't want to say in a holding pattern, but I can see. Should we get that 4-way or whatever match might end up coming out of this, I can see Marina interfering in it and costing Willow the win, whether it's a tag and she's with Statlander or it's a 4-way and it ends up costing Willow the match. Her and Marina will come back around. Just, you got to remember, Marina got taken away in an ambulance. She ain't going to be around for a bit.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Or until next week.
Yeah, probably until next week.
Yeah.
And then maybe she could pop up twice. I would not be surprised if these 4 women got a tag match next week and Shafir interfered in that. Although it would kind of spoil what I have to imagine would be the main event. So maybe not next week. All right. After this, sticking with the women, we went backstage with Mercedes Moné, who, as I mentioned earlier, is having a bit of trouble speaking because she got kicked in the throat.
Yep. From what I heard, she had the bruised larynx.
I was going to say, thank goodness she didn't go full RVD Triple H and break her larynx.
That was rough.
Yeah, she got a bad. There was a bruise on her chin and stuff.
Yep.
I think it was a bruise and not just the lighting. But anyway, because she is having trouble speaking, she has Renee do her intro for her, which I thought was pretty funny. And then after Renee congratulates Mercedes on her win, Renee brings over Billy Starks, who Mercedes has invited to the interview, and both women had agreed to no physicality. Renee asked Billy what she learned from watching the match on Sunday. So we all saw her taking notes. And Billy says a lot of stuff, but mostly she says that her and Mercedes are a lot alike, if they both made some history around here in both AEW and Ring of Honor. But now Billy is looking for a change, and that change is that she wants to change into a champion. Mercedes laughs at her, or at least tries to before coughing. And says that Billy will find out there's a price to pay when you mess with Mercedes Moné, and kind of shoves her in the head and leaves, and Billy just kind of stands there. So, as you kind of mentioned earlier, James, we are setting up this Mercedes-Billy feud, which presumably would help set up some sort of Mercedes-Athena feud, but we had to start somewhere. We started a little bit last week, and we continue it on this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, it's doing what it needs to do. So there's not much to say past that, but I am excited.
Yeah, I can't think of a better word than sunning Billy right now, because I don't think daughtering works. But that's basically what she's doing. Billy's a kid, she's 19, right? Or maybe she's a little older than now. She said she won the TV. No, she said she won the TV title at 19. So she's either 19 or 20. Point is, she's still a child.
Yes.
And Mercedes is clearly not taking her seriously. So when this matchup does inevitably happen, I bet Billy's going to take her to her limit. Mercedes going to escape, but she's definitely going to take her to her limit. So I'm actually really looking forward to that match.
Me too. We've seen that she can go. So I'm excited for it.
Billy is a prodigy. After this, we came back from commercial to go to an in-ring interview with a very hobbled Will Ospreay as he fucked his hip up. And he was able to, hobble his way down to the ring for an interview with one Toni Schiavone. And after recapping his injuries and saying how scared he was as he was struggling to keep up with Fletcher, who he calls a future world champion. Yep. He then goes on to say that he's in a lot of trouble with the wife since he lied to her about not doing anything stupid off the cage. And then when he got to the back, it had resulted in 15 missed calls. So when he called her back, she was all really nice to him until she just switched on a dime and started screaming at him about jumping off the cage. But he's a smooth talker, and he was able to talk his way out of it by saying he'd cook for her when he gets home on Friday, and then he'd give her a good seeing to. Which, judging by the way Will was walking, she might have to do most of the work in that encounter. Ospreay then turns to the future, saying if he wants to be the guy, he feels like he needs something around his waist. And with Copeland getting his shot next week and Swerve getting his shot at Dynasty, he's trying to figure out when he should call his shot for the AEW World Championship. So Will announces that he will be entering the Owen Hart tournament so that he can main event All In and go on to become AEW World Champion. If it's Copeland, he's looking forward to having his first match with him. If it's Swerve, he looks forward to running that match back. And if it's the so-called King, Jon Moxley, then Moxley best know that an assassin is coming for him to take the throne because, Will's on another level. Yep. So this was cool. It sets up Will for the Owen tournament. It was a good promo. Honestly, the stuff with his wife was hilarious.
It was really funny, but he was stumbling in the beginning. I don't know what was going on. I think he was just very excited.
Yeah.
But I loved going into the back half of the promo. I thought he did a lot better. And I don't know. I don't know. There's All In is 4 months away. And it feels like there's both so much time and not that much time yet either. But I could see him being a main event guy for that.
So there's a lot of time because I came away with a couple of things from this. First of all, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of time between now and All In. The other thing I came away with is I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Will, at minimum, not see him wrestle, maybe not see him at all until the Owen starts because the dude can't move. And I understand why. He took a rough bump on that Spanish Fly on his hip. You saw him hobble out. Yeah, you saw him hobble out from the cage at All In. You saw him hobble down to the ring tonight. I feel so bad for him that he's got to fly back to the UK. That's a long ass flight. Hopefully, he can get himself some first class and lay down because being in economy with that hip and those seats would be for 9 hours or whatever it is would be rough.
Sounds hellish.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Will compete for a while because I just don't think he can move, and I think he needs the time off. He also has a bunch of stitches in his head. He had the tape wrapped around it. I wouldn't be at best he has a terrible hip pointer, and at worst I don't think he broke it or dislocated it, but he wouldn't be walking if he did. But you can throw your pelvis out of line. So I hope he didn't do that because that's a pain. But I think he's going to be taking a lot of time off here.
As somebody who deals with the occasional sciatic issue, that's sciatica. That's got to be worse.
I think the other thing I took away from this, and it has a lot to do with the promo after from Switchblade, I think we might be getting the finals for the Owen being Ospreay versus Will, and then Will.
Wait, what?
Sorry, Switchblade versus Ospreay.
Okay.
Thank you. And wrong W name. White Ospreay in the finals of the Owen, and Ospreay going on to face Moxley and beat him at All In if Darby doesn't come back. We might have just gotten to a point where it's just like, all right, Darby, where the hell are you? It's just taking too long.
Let's not say if, because that has some bad implications about
it. No, I just meant if in terms of like when he comes back, like the timing, like the if of the timing of it. Yeah. Because he has been a ghost. Yeah. Obviously, he's on, he's climbing Everest. We presume. I haven't heard any updates on that. So I don't really know where he is or what he's doing. And granted, that's his own business, but
No, it's our business. It's affecting the product on TV that I watch. I have questions.
Yeah, but if we're not going to get any answers, we need another plan. And I think as things are constructed right now, Switchblade Jay White, Will Ospreay, finals is going, winner faces Moxley at All In. And it's probably going to be Ospreay, and he probably beats Moxley to end the Death Riders. And and Moxley's title reign. Eric saying Darby hasn't even left for the Himalayas yet. There's a season to climb Everest. I don't know what that season is, but I think it's still winter over there, or at least they're coming out of it.
I mean, technically, spring doesn't start till next week for us.
I know. I'm trying to remember like where on. I'm gonna have to pull up Google Maps here for a second. Maps, yeah. Just because I'm trying to remember what side of the. All right, Eric's saying he leaves in April. Not even in the Owen tournament. So if it is Darby, it's going to be after All In. Which, all right, in that case, I think I'm right because just not. Stevie locations. How about the mountain? Here we go. I was like, yeah.
If Darby isn't coming back until after All In, my God, just Swerve take the title now and then do Swerve versus Jay or Swerve versus Will at All In.
Okay.
I don't even care if Swerve versus Will is a rematch. I don't care.
Yeah. For the record, Mount Everest is above the equator, so it is the same season over there. Although, funny enough, it's pretty much on line with like Georgia in terms of latitude. But it's high up there, so it's probably still a little colder. Either way, yeah, look, I think if we're not going to have Darby for that long of a time here, then I'm okay with making Will the face of the franchise right now, trademark Moose. But I'm okay with the face of this franchise because, yeah, if Darby's going to take too long, yeah, you put the rocket on Will and finally give him the title because he is red hot right
now. Man.
This
company is so much right, but that main event scene scares me.
It is hilariously both incredibly stacked and being held hostage.
I hesitate because I don't want to compare this title reign to Roman's title reign. For so many reasons, I don't want to make that comparison. But that feeling of helplessness until the chosen one arrives is exhausting.
And I really hope it's another dude who does a springboard cutter.
So you want Will to be the guy to take the title off Mox?
I think if we're going to do it at All In, then yes, it's going to be Ospreay. Now, would I mind if Swerve did it at Dynasty? No. And then we ran back Swerve versus Ospreay? I'm okay with that. Yeah. But, I think if you're going to end this Death Rider saga with some big, grandiose blow-off match, a la Cody versus Roman. I know we don't want to make those comparisons, but at this point, I think they're just kind of there. Yeah. Then you do it at All In, and I think you do it with Ospreay. I think he's the guy you do it with right now.
It's crazy.
He's such a good white meat baby face right now. He's so over. And again, if he's got to take time off, having him come into the Owen, not blow through the Owen, but win the Owen, and then go on to beat Moxley, like he wants to be the guy that embodies and is the face of AEW. And both in kayfabe and out. I don't know if you saw anything from his CVV interview, but you can tell how much he loves the company, how much he wants to be a part of it.
He is so passionate. He is so emotionally invested in this company.
Yeah, so I know Darby is an AEW original, and he's been there for a long time, and he's also just as passionate about the company because it saved his life. if he's not around, then I think the guy is Will.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's not going to be Kenny, because Kenny's probably going to be caught up with the Okada, you go with Will. So I think that's what we're going to end up doing.
Yeah.
Speaking of the other half of this, let's get to this Switchblade Jay White interview. So as Renee tries to introduce him, White just immediately grabs the microphone and starts chanting Ospreay's name. And then he congratulates Will on his win at Revolution and says that if he wants to get a shot at the title, that he's eventually going to have to do what everyone's been preventing, which is go through him. Renee then asks White about hitting Copeland with the briefcase on Sunday. And after dancing around it for a minute, White finally says that he did not do it on purpose, as he was truly there to have Copeland's back. And unfortunately, things just didn't work out. Now Copeland has his rematch, and Swerve is the number one contender. But as White says, Swerve Schmerv, he's been the one there fighting all the battles against the Death Riders, unlike Swerve. And between that and never getting his the title basically stolen out from under him by the Death Riders, he deserves his chance. And then I kind of missed the end of this, but I think he's entering the Owen. And if not, he's definitely probably going to. Yeah. I think he's probably going to. Because like I said, I think this leads to White Ospreay for the Owen finals. Because that just sounds like a great path to All In to me.
Yeah. But all the pieces are there for something really fun and exciting. Yeah. That's what we keep saying. All the pieces are there. The road feels somewhat clear. Just
this honestly feels like you can run the Owen with Ospreay, Swerve, maybe Copeland, Will. I think you still need a few more guys there, but Hangman, MJF.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if MJF would ever join a tournament, but he might. he's getting desperate. Like there are maybe Ricochet. Like there are so many dudes just either dancing at the top of the court or right below it, where that is you can, if you wanted to, truly make that a main event tournament.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna have to have some guys lose who you don't normally have lose, but it might arguably be the most stacked tournament of all time if you want to do it that way.
It could be. It really could be for AEW.
And I really want it to be. Because I think that would be the best way in the short term to shake everything out before you hit All In.
So, all right. So let's go to the comments real quick where Eric is saying they're going to pull a Roman here. You're going to think Swerve can win and think Will can win, and they just won't. Swerve is this story's Sammy. Will is Cody, except he doesn't win. But at the very least, he won't keep the title until the following All In. Look, there is a significant difference between this and the Roman story and the Bloodline story. There was nobody. It got to a point that nobody was worthy to take that title off of Roman. After a certain point, there was nobody that made sense. Cody coming back from AEW was a godsend because who the hell knows who it would have been? Probably The Rock. So
it damn near almost was anyway.
So here, there's a fundamental difference because Roman's reign was so grand, so large, it could only have the right winner be the person to do it. There weren't options. There needed to be the perfect challenger. That is not the case here. This is not some grand, magical title reign. This is a title reign that most people are not on board with. The storylines have not been great. And sure, you could argue that the storylines weren't all great for the Bloodline either, but they always were captivating for the most part. This is just something that nobody, like, we're just waiting it out. Nobody is excited about this.
Yeah, I think you could argue with the Bloodline. There were highs and lows, and I think a lot of the lows were just, a lot of the matches ended the same, where the rest of the Bloodline interfered and Roman retained via bullshit.
Shocking how similar that is here.
Yeah, or a rope magically collapsing.
Awful.
Yeah, sorry. I thought of it. I had to make everyone else remember that shit.
I'll never forget.
But there were some really high highs with the Bloodline too, with Jey Uso in the beginning. and the Sammy stuff, them just being funny, and then Sammy eventually turning and going after Roman, and then Jay turning. Like, there was some good stuff there too. There has not been nearly as much good stuff with the Death Riders, I think, since the beginning. We were all kind of enjoying the running roughshod over the company there for a bit, and we thought we were going to see some young talent try to step up, and we did for like 5 minutes, and then that went by the wayside. And then after that, pretty much the only funny thing they did was literally take Rampage off the air.
That's
and
impressive.
Up until the Copeland stuff, it's been pretty DOA. And then the latest run with Copeland has been pretty good. But we've been enjoying it a lot more. They finally got some comeuppance. And here we go. We have this big opportunity with Copeland and Jay White, or Copeland facing Moxley, and Jay White and Christian floating around. And they had, as we said on Sunday, the biggest wet fart of an ending that any goodwill they had built up has just been completely taken away.
Yeah. No,
so
I agree.
Those are the major differences between those two. And the fact that obviously the Death Rider thing has been much shorter so far. So I do think that we're going to stretch this out to All In just because it feels like the place where you need to have that ending. But they really need to kick this into a different gear if they want any of us to care. Because I think the only reason we do care is if you put the right guy in that position.
Yeah.
I think it's Will Ospreay. And I think right now he's the only guy that could get me to care unless it's Kenny. And again, we're getting Kenny Okada.
I'd care if Swerve does it. Or are you talking specifically All In?
I'd probably care if Swerve did it too. You need somebody who's really over and whom the fans are behind. And
it really could have been Orange. Or at a point. Orange would have been the great guy for this.
We thought there was a chance it was Orange, but then we were like, all right, Orange is going to be the sacrificial lamb to set up for Darby, and then it still wasn't Darby.
And then he was just a sacrificial lamb, period.
Yeah, so I think now my number 1 pick is Will. My number 2 pick is Swerve to do this. Number 3 pick is Jay White, but I think Jay's turning heel in the next 10 minutes.
In terms of just fan subjective, who I would love to see with the title and win the title, obviously Kenny is my number 1. Number 2 would be of the crop, Ospreay. 3 would be Swerve. 4 would be MJF, and then round it out at Hangman. And I feel terrible not including Darby on that list, but I am not waiting for this guy.
Yeah, if he's not going to be around, you can't even include him. Like, he's not even, like, it's not even that he's not in the title picture. He's just not even in the fucking picture.
You know the thing that breaks my heart? He was supposed to have done this last year.
You were the chosen one.
Oh, God, we'd be done with it.
Yeah. I think I have Hangman I'd slot in at 4 and MJF 5. Just I think it would drive MJF insane if Hangman won another title before him.
That is definitely going to be the story moving forward. Which of the two of them is going to be the first, not the first 2-time champion, but of the two of them, who's going to be first to become 2-time champion? Because
I could really see this kind of taking a break, taking a step back, and then picking up again, and on and off for.
Producer Boy is convinced that All In is going to have Hangman and Swerve taking on the Hurt Business
Syndicate.
Yeah. God damn it.
I would like that tag team at some point, but I don't know if I need it right now.
I think it's too early. I don't think justifiably where these two guys are, because you got to get through Dynasty because Swerve is going for the title. That leaves 3 months. I don't think 3 months you can justifiably have these guys as a tag team. Yeah,
you really need like a different war to break out that brings these two guys together, and then they begrudgingly have to fight said war. Speaking of Hangman and MJF, let's just quickly finish out the show here. Renee caught up with Hangman backstage, and she asked him what was next, but they are interrupted by MJF. So Renee just bails very smartly, just in case. So MJF mocks Paige, asking if he wants to go. But Hangman, he was like, "You want me to finish breaking your neck?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to." And instead says that he was thinking about what MJF tried last week when he attempted to light Hangman on fire. Hangman says he doesn't believe Max has it in him, and he also thinks that MJF really does care what the people think. MJF laughs at him, takes a step back because he says that the Hangman smells like ass, and then says that Hangman might be on his high horse now, but he is going to Max is going to be go on to become a multiple-time world champion, while Hangman scratches his claws his way back almost to the top before he once again stumbles and falls all the way back down. And eventually, as Max keeps winning titles, the people are going to get tired of for Hangman waiting to win the big one, and his mask will be taken off, and Hangman will finally be revealed for the fraud that he is. Hangman gets face-to-face with MJF, and he says, I guess we'll see, won't we? And then the two of them just getting a stare down before Max finally blinks and he walks away. So this was quick. It was a nice little epilogue, I feel like, to their feud for the moment. Like I said, though, I think this takes a break and then gets revisited a little bit down the road.
I think they're going to be for perennially feuding, that they're just always going to have animosity, but it could be heated up and cooled down at any point, and then they could revisit it. Hangman's a brave man getting that close to MJF's face, considering how much tanner he had on.
Oh yeah, there was a lot today. His hands were a completely different color.
I have to, like, I was talking about it with Producer Boy before the show. There's a part of me, he has to be doing it on purpose.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because
he knows.
It was awful tonight. I love this. I love these hungry young guys all staking claim to the top. And only one of them could climb all the way at a time. I'm very excited to see who's going to be the guy. And truth be told, that's another reason why I just need Moxley to lose this title. I want to see other people in the title scene. It's not even just that, like, oh, who's going to be the guy to beat Mox? Beyond that, I don't care. I want to see title match Swerve Strickland versus Jay White. I want to see title match Darby Allin versus whoever. I want to see these people in championship matches. And I don't hate Mox. I really have a lot of respect for Mox, but I just don't need him in the title scene right now. I'm good. I am good.
I think he's another person where when he does lose the title, he not only deserves a break, but he could definitely deal with one. And we've seen him do it before. Toni usually has to force him to do it, but we've seen him do it before, and I think he could really benefit from one because the way the storyline is going, I think a lot of people are burned out from it. So my best guess is we're going to have to wait a few more months for All In for it to come to a close. Hopefully they can maybe get some goodwill back and bring it back up after Sunday, but they're going to be hard pressed to do so. So we'll see who that number one contender ends up being potentially after Swerve. Who knows? But I do wish him luck because I do like Moxley, and I feel like he's just getting a terrible rap at the moment.
Yeah. He's at the center of a terrible story. And whether that's his fault or anybody else's fault, he's done too much for AEW for me to be like, oh, this guy is selfish and doesn't know what to do.
Because his performance has been great. But you can be a great actor. The movie can still suck.
Exactly.
On that note, James, I thought we've said this throughout the night a bit. This was a promo-heavy episode of Dynamite, and it wasn't necessarily bad. There were some really good high points, but I think it ended up being a little bit more towards not low, but like in the middle to mid.
We came off some very incredible Dynamites over the last few weeks and an incredible Revolution pay-per-view. The eventual crash out was inevitable. And if this is the wall that we hit, I'm okay. It's not that bad.
Yeah, and again, you had to reset the table after Revolution. A lot of stuff happened. I feel like a lot of storylines finished there. So you have to, you got to start a new ball rolling. And with so many people hurt, you couldn't get all of them rolling, but they got a good amount of them. They did a little bit of table setting, and I think we're in a good spot as we start moving towards Dynasty, which I believe is April 6th.
Yes, April 6th in Philadelphia.
Cool. That's Sunday, right?
Yes, sir.
Good, because that's Mets opening weekend. So I'll be here. All right. I'm
Awesome.
going to be a little burnt out, but I'll be here because I have games Friday and Saturday.
We'll make it work.
Meet the Mets. Yeah, James, did you have any final thoughts before we go?
Yes. You know what? I am feeling very generous, and we're going to do our first one for 2025.
Ooh.
In honor of next week's Fatal 4-Way, we are going to give away a Speedball Mike Bailey autograph. All right? So I will provide you guys with the info on how to enter in the next day or two on social media. And if you're a regular here, you'll definitely hear more about it moving forward. But it'll probably be dependent on a next episode of our next Dynamite episode coverage.
Oh, okay. I was like trying to type out a thing.
I could keep going. I could keep riffing for you.
No, that's cool. Caught me a little off guard, but that actually kind of leads me to the ending. So I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. We'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe. If you like the video, it lets us know that you're enjoying what we're doing here on the pod, and we'll continue to do it. And if you subscribe, you continue to get all the great stuff here on the pod. James will be back here, I presume, for Gym Pack Zone tomorrow night. I will be back tomorrow. I unfortunately will not be covering Sacrifice on Friday, but go watch it regardless. But we'll have fun in the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow. Yeah, and we'll see maybe if we can get something else out. Maybe not Friday, but you could talk about it at some point. If not, just double episode Gym Pack next week. And then we will do our best to cover any other big happenings in wrestling. We saw James do NXT on Tuesday. I think that was you. Shout out to you. Pulling triple duty this week. If anything big happens on Raw, well, we'll try to cover it. If anything big happens on SmackDown or Collision, good luck. And obviously, we will be back here on next Wednesday for Dynamite. As James mentioned, you're going to want to go follow us on our social media platforms. If you're here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Links are all in the description below. And if you are watching us over on Facebook or on Twitter and you want to check out some of our other platforms, Twitter is at marketdown_pod. Instagram is at marketdownpod. YouTube.com/marketdown3665. Blue Sky is marketdownpodcast.bsky.social. Again, just search us on there or any of our platforms, and we will more than likely come up pretty easily. So be sure to go follow those so you can get the information for this Speedball Mike Bailey autograph giveaway. I have to imagine it entails you following us on some of those platforms anyway, so you might as well get a jump on it so you can get the information and get the follow in. And James, just producing on it here, see if you can put the details here on YouTube as well. You can make text posts. So.
I will definitely send you that info to make the text post because I've tried. I can't figure it out.
I've never tried either, but we'll give it a shot, the both of us together, and hopefully we can figure it out. So yeah, guys, go follow us on stuff so you can get free stuff, because free stuff is awesome. Any last words, James?
I love you guys. I'm so tired. Have a good night.
I'm glad James is out of his sling. So for producer boy Eric Asante and a slingless James Asante, my name is Nick Cummings. Isn't that somebody's thing? It's pretty close. Whatever. My name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everyone.